We have no problem if some people want to sit cross-legged on the floor in the middle. This is a community discussion, what we're going to attempt to do is try to make sure that we as your legislators understand concerns of the community, pro and con and neutral and otherwise on this issue. Obviously, it is very controversial, and we want to start by noting our role is to listen. People have approached us as your state legislators, knowing full well that your state legislators are not in charge of making decisions about 35th Avenue Northeast. We'd like to fully fund your schools. We're working on providing health care for everyone and a lot of other state issues. But we're here because it's been suggested that we might be able to be helpful and at least understand and see if there are some avenues we can help try to bridge gaps here. And what lessons there are to be learned, because there might be some lessons for us in terms of future state policy as well. We do have some representatives from the Mayor's Office and Seattle Department of Transportation who are here to listen. They are respectfully standing in the back, crowded in the back there. I'll ask them to introduce themselves in a minute. Please remember a couple of things. A, we're in a library, so whether you're out there or in here, we want to keep our voices down. This room is not entirely soundproof, so if we're disruptive, we'll all be asked to leave the library. Number two, this is a community conversation. You're all neighbors, and you may disagree about this, but I'd like to ask you to respect each other and not interrupt each other, okay? We're going to try to hear from as many people as possible, but it's not going to be possible to hear from everyone, right? But please, we're available to listen to you. You can email the three of us, and when we break, we'll give you our emails again. And our agenda is as follows. Because the three of us heard extensively, not exclusively, but extensively from Save 35th advocates on, was that Thursday night? Thursday. This outreach for today began with saying, well, we'd like to hear from Safe 35th people. So we're going to ask 2 or 3 people from Safe 35th to speak for a maximum of 15 minutes. Hopefully 2 or 3 of you divide that up. And then we'd like to hear some responses from Save 35th for 2 or 3 people for a maximum of 10 minutes, and then ask questions or give comments. We're really interested in suggestions for what might have to be changed about the process and how we may be able to find a way of finding any common ground, okay? David, do you have any?
Yeah, I'm David Frockt. I'm a state legislator. I've served in the state senate and for the last several years. And I was one of the ones who suggested the three of us meet with the group. And as I said, we've had some interactions with the Save 35th. And so I had originally envisioned this to be a time that we would hear mostly from the Save 35th. The word has gotten out, and so everyone's here. But I want to reiterate to those for lack of a better word, wearing the green or holding the green signs, the safe side. As Jerry said, our role is we are state legislators. We do know various elected officials, and sometimes that gives us a bit of, getting a phone call returned and things like that. But it's really a city and local issue, and I understand there's a process. But Our constituents have reached out to us in a variety of ways on this issue. I appreciate all the emails I've received from on both sides, but in particular, I want to mention the SAFE side in recent days. I appreciate them. I've read all of them, and I understand, I think, where people are coming from. And what I want to convey is the same thing that I told the Save 35th people, I'm telling to the Safe 35th people, which is if we can be constructive in this process, we're willing to be constructive and be helpful if there's a way for us to do it. That's basically the message. So we're here to listen. We have, like anybody else, maybe some of our own opinions on things, but the main thing is if there's a way for us to be constructive, where there's a way to bridge some of this, we want to try to be helpful. So that's why we're here. And again, I think if we could just last thing I'll say is we'll let Jerry kind of moderate and ask Jerry to call on people as well so that we're organized as we do this. So let me turn it over to Javier if he wants to say a couple words.
Hi, good afternoon. State Representative Javier Valdez, and thank you all for coming. I don't have much to add. I am here to listen. We said from our walking tour last year from the Save 35th Street, I gave the Save 35th folks the same pledge that I gave back then last week, is that we would give you that same opportunity so we could hear from you. And that's what I think we're all here today. So in any role that I think the three of us can play into bridging and finding some common ground to help your discussions with the city go forward. I think that's why we're here to listen. And in lieu of time, because I know we are going to be asked to leave here right at 5 o'clock, I'm going to sit down and have Jerry lead us in our discussion.
So can we have our Seattle Mayor's Office folks wave your hands and introduce yourself in loud voices, what your names and roles are, and then SDOT.
Hi there, my name is Pollet. I am an External Affairs Liaison with the Office of Mayor Jenny Durkin.
Hi, I'm Ethan Wei. I'm the Deputy Director of External Affairs for the Mayor's Office.
I'm Lorelai Williams. I'm one of the Deputy Directors at SDOT.
And my name is Elliot Humbrecht. I'm also with SDOT. Like I mentioned, we're here to listen to you guys today. We've met a lot of you. We've talked to a lot of you, but I'm curious to hear what the rest of you have to say.
And thank you for being willing to stand. I can't see if we have people crammed in the doorway, outside the doorway, but if there are, if there's any possibility for anyone else who wants to sit on the floor to come in, please pass word that there's room on the floor, and especially people with kids. And if you see someone out there, is there anyone who needs it? Okay, we're overflow. Thank you. All right. So again, I have good news and bad news also about how you've organized yourselves. You have a state representative who is absolutely red-green colorblind. So,
I'm not. Green's over here, red's largely over here, but not exclusively.
I can read safe or save, but if you want to know which shirt you're wearing.
Laurel or Yanny?
What?
Laurel or Yanny?
So what we said we would do is ask for the Safe 35th folks to spend a few minutes at the outset, choose who you would like to have give a presentation.
I think
Liam, we do kick off, and we're going to go till 11 minutes after on the safe side, okay? And again, please just be respectful and listen. We're all here to learn, and we're all neighbors, okay?
Sure.
And if it helps, if you want to stand over,
Yeah, I can go over there. Hi, my name is Liam. I live at just up on 34th Avenue by where Grand Central Baking is about to open soon. I'm excited for that. I moved here just a few years ago, about 3 years ago, to this neighborhood, but I've been in Northeast Seattle for the last 10 years. I work down at the UW, and my background is in science. So a lot of what drives me is data. I like to read studies. Traffic engineering is not my background, but I like to read the data, and that drives me. I know that that isn't what drives everybody else, numbers have a hard time resonating, so I'll try to work in some personal stories as well.
Can I ask people to, we actually have a speaker, so could we have no talking? Thank you.
Thank you. What drives me on this project is that I see a traffic safety epidemic. I downloaded the CDC data today, which shows that for people under age 34, which counts me, I know I'm young, death by automobile is in the top 3 causes of death nationwide. The numbers are staggering. That's nationwide data. Obviously, does that affect 35th? We've heard from a lot of people who've had their lives personally affected on 35th. A man that's permanently bound to a wheelchair after getting rear-ended at 75th. A woman who was hit by a school bus in a crosswalk at 60th. Every story is heart-wrenching. Downloading the injury data to show that just in the last 5 years, 77 people have been injured on this street. Luckily, there have been no fatalities so far, but I don't think we need to wait for one to fix the street. 77 of your neighbors being injured is 77 too many. No questions. There are many reasons why this project will fix this traffic safety epidemic that's happening just in our neighborhood. It's not going to cure it, but it will help. We know that the largest cause of people getting severely injured and killed in traffic is by cars moving too fast. There's national data, local data that shows that creating a narrower lane, better sight lines to the curb so it's easier for people to see pedestrians crossing the street, these things make it safer for everybody. You can remove ambiguity, keep it safer for people driving cars as well. The chances of a fatal collision at 25 or 30 miles an hour is about half that at 40 miles an hour. I can't remember the exact statistic, but it's dramatic. So if we can keep the number of people going 40 miles an hour down, we have a better chance of not having that first fatality on 35th. The vulnerable users bear the lion's, well, not necessarily the lion's share, but an undue fraction of the fatalities and injuries on the road. They are just trying to cross the street. This is pedestrians and, yes, bicycles. When they get hit, they don't have an airbag or a seatbelt to protect them. And I think that if we can designate a little bit of our street space to protect these vulnerable users, that, again, gives us a better chance of stemming the tide of injuries on this street. The other part of this plan is motivated by bicycle infrastructure. The bike lane on this road is part of the bicycle master plan. That plan was developed with extensive outreach in 2014. When it was developed, there was a community meeting, probably with even more shouting and yelling than this one, over where to put the bike lanes in Northeast Seattle, and the decision was 35th. That's where the neighborhood came to a compromise in 2014, and so that's why they're going in here. It's the end of a branch, but it also provides connectivity all the way north, and this is something that 39th Avenue does not serve. Everybody we've talked to, some people say 39th is good for them, other people say they want to shop at businesses. They're trying to get their families to spend money at Grateful Bread, at Top Pot, go to the QFC up the road, and biking 4 blocks up a giant hill, down a hill, up a hill, it's not a viable piece of bike infrastructure. And again, my role in this is not to debate how the bike master plan was developed. That was developed through extensive outreach and planning, work through the Seattle Bicycle Advisory Board. The reason why they put bike lanes on 35th isn't something that I'm qualified to debate. The other reason is, we do need bicycle infrastructure. Our world is facing a climate emergency, and giving people choices is part of that solution. We don't have to take everybody out of their cars. If you're car dependent, you can still get where you need to go in a car. I'm not trying to take away your car. The idea is if we can provide people the option to get on a bike, to bike down to Top Pot on a nice summer day, if they can do that without getting in their car, that's one less trip. Every trip counts. As the bicycle network becomes more complete, we expect to see the mode share citywide go up. The goal of the Bike Master Plan is to increase that mode share up into the 10 to 20%. I believe the goal that was set was 12, but I would personally hope that that would be higher. Again, not everybody, but if we can give people the option, it makes a difference. There's been a lot of talk recently about cost of bike lanes. Yes, downtown bike lanes are expensive, especially in poorly maintained streets, where a bike lane triggers costs to stormwater and signal changes as well. Doing bike lanes as part of paving projects saves the city an enormous amount of money. That's why this is happening. It's part of the paving project because we have to restripe the street anyway, and to add the paint in a slightly different location means it's virtually free. The other reason that this project motivates me to fight hard for it is the aspect of livability. This is my community, this is my home. The businesses along this street are vital to the success of this community. And every study that I've found shows that businesses do better when bike lanes go in because of their pedestrian safety benefits. People feel more comfortable walking on the street, so they're more likely to go visit a business. They walk past a business and they say, oh, that shop has something nice, I'll go in and buy it. There's a lot of data, but again, I'm trying to keep the data down, but I'm happy to give anybody references to those studies afterwards. They've done it in Vancouver, they've done it in Seattle itself, just over on 65th Street. They've done studies in Chicago, Salt Lake City. They're all unanimous. Removing parking to put in bike lanes does not hurt business. You might lose one customer to that they aren't willing to walk another block to find a parking spot, but in every case that it's been studied, that customer is replaced by 1.8 customers who walk by your shop, ride their bike by your shop. Sorry, 1.08. Correct my figure. 8% increase was one statistic. So when I see people worried about parking, I get, it kind of hurts, because the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm afraid. I'm afraid for my life when I ride down 35th. To hear that parking is such an issue that people are willing to keep vulnerable users of this road at risk, especially when the data shows that they should not be worried about parking, really hurts me personally.
If you can share your 5 minutes.
Yeah, that was actually where I was going next. I would like to let some other people from our group speak, if anybody would like. Anybody else wouldn't like, I also have some letters that people wrote that weren't able to attend.
I'm Michael Snyder. I have attended Seattle Bike Advisory Board meetings for about 5 years back, 7 years ago, around when the Bike Master Plan was passed through. When that was passed, the rooms were packed 4 times bigger than this room, and lots of furious debate. I've also served on the board of Cascade Bike Club in the past and done other things. I live up on 95th. I pretty much daily for the last 2 years get on the bus, ride down to 65th, get on another bus, go to work, come back, get off, walk down 2 blocks, to Concordia Lutheran School, pick up my child, we walk another half block, get on the bus, take the bus down, get off, cross the street. I'm crossing the street, I'm walking up and down the street, and many times in the mornings, very poor light, I see people running across the street mid-block through traffic to catch the bus. Buses go one way on one side of the street and one way down the other side of the street. Everybody has to cross the street at every one of those bus stops to get to the bus, to get on and off. And these buses are packed. The bus completely, every 10 minutes, the bus is completely full at one end at 65th and almost empty by the time we get to 95th. Every 10 minutes. There's hundreds and hundreds of people that are getting on and off and trying to cross the street. And we know that 4-lane roads have a safety issue. With 2 cars, 1 car stops for the pedestrian, the other car sees just somebody slowed down, and they go around, they speed up, they hit the pedestrian. There's a injury and fatality issue where years and years ago, SDOT stopped putting crosswalks, painted crosswalks, on any 4-lane street because of the safety issues. And that's kind of where I come on this. I participated in debates just like this about Stoneway, about Nickerson, about, I've lost count how many road diets. Everybody's concerned about parking on road diets. And there's, I think, 2 takeaways at the state level for you. One is, I don't know how to get this level of community involvement in the planning stage when we're trying to get people out. We have community meetings, mostly tied into Lake City, where we struggle to get a dozen people to come to a scheduled meeting every month. But we say we're taking away parking, and we have 200. And the other part is, how do we engage all of you with the message 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when we're doing the original planning? And I'm sorry, SDOT, you haven't been good about communication in the 18 years I've been in Seattle. It's just a weakness of the department. People still don't know what shadows are. Thank you.
My name's Robin, and I'm a teacher. I had to take off work and leave my kids, who I was supposed to help after school, to be here. I'm disappointed at the time of the meeting because I know there's lots of people that wanted to be here that couldn't because they're not retired and they're at work right now. And I think I want to respond to, but there's a lot of people that want to be here that can't be here because they have kids to take care of and they're at work. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Also, I just want to respond to the yelling at Liam about go down to 39th and drive. So the other streets don't go all the way through, and if you're on a bike, it's really hard to go down the hill and up 39th and then come up and get my groceries at Safeway and then go back down and go up and then come back up and go to the next business and then go back down and over. And I don't think it's asking too much for you to just let me safely be on my bike. I want to use the road just like you. There's people that don't have cars because they can't afford them or because they're not old enough to drive, and they need a safe place to be. We don't want to take away your lanes. I know you guys are concerned about your parking, but we need to make sacrifices. We need to worry about climate change. We need to give places for people to be out of their cars, and we need to remember that the city went through all the proper channels. I think the city was great about communicating. There was lots of meetings, there's lots of flyers. I just got a flyer last week. I live on 35th. I've owned my house there for 20 years. I got a flyer that says everything is happening, including the bike lanes. There's a lot of people in our community, I think most that support this, that aren't here because they think it's happening, because it should be. So I'm actually hoping that this is a waste of time, and I'm hoping that all the hard work that the city and the community put in over the last 5 years pays off and that these improvements are going to actually go through. I think that is what's going to happen, and I hope it is what's going to happen.
So, thank you for being respectful of each other. Like to hear a couple of folks from SAVE, and we'll go 10 minutes. So if you want 2 or 3 people from SAVE, and I don't know, you know, if you want to do this by raising your hands, that would be all on you, or are there 2 or 3 people who folks from SAVE want to designate as spokesperson? So tell me, you want spokesperson or someone, or do you want me to call? Yeah, people are pointing to you. You want, yeah.
Before say people start, can we have a little question for you for this? For the sake of
No, let's hear from both sides and then we have a discussion.
Right, and then we'll have some discussion, okay? So we've got 10 minutes now. If you want, whoever wants to go next, be ready, okay?
My name is Charlie Carter. I'm a retired city engineer. I was hired right out of the University of Washington College of Civil Engineering into the Seattle Traffic and Transportation Division. My first assignment was to work on the Mercer mess. I co-authored the 20th report on the Mercer mess, which went on the shelf next to 19 other ones. My second assignment was to design bicycle routes in the city of Seattle. Another fella and I undertook the task of designing bicycle routes where there were none. There was really no state-of-the-art design criteria in the nation. We ended up choosing the green paint. We put in a bikeway around Alpine, we put another one in from Green Lake to the UAW, and another one in across Northeast 40th Street. I wouldn't have never considered putting a bikeway on 35th Northeast. Given the volumes, traffic, my biggest concern is in the morning rush hour, you've got all this traffic headed down and you've got one car coming up that wants to make a left turn at a non-signalized intersection. He's never going to get through that line of traffic unless somebody stops, and he's going to back up traffic to University Village. Same in the morning rush hour. You got all this traffic coming southbound, somebody comes northbound, they want to make a left turn at a non-signalized intersection. Unless somebody lets them in, they're going to back up traffic to who knows where. 39 is a good alternative, although some people don't like to ride it. My wife and the 2 neighbor ladies and another college professor, all UAW people, ride it every day that school's on. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tom Gaffney, and last August I got involved and some friends joined me, and we started Save 35th Avenue. Now, what I want to talk about, I haven't pre-programmed it, but I'll go through it as best I can. Liam, you are right that faster speeds lead to higher fatalities. The SDOT found that the 85 percentile speed on 35th is 31 miles an hour. That is the traffic data for how we find out if a street is going too fast or not fast enough. Recently, the City Council said arterials should be at 25. SDOT said, that's great, we don't have the money to change the signs. So if we really want 25 miles an hour on 35th, SDOT, please change the signs. Now, it may be we're still at 31, but eventually we'll probably get down to 26. We haven't had any fatalities out here. Most of the accidents we have are pedestrians at the corner interfacing with a car turning. The bike lane isn't going to help. When the bike lane is on the upside where it's protected, there's a row of parked cars. That clutter is going to stop any visual assessment that a pedestrian is coming across. It'll be worse than what we have. So, as far as the speed goes, SDOT could help, and the rest of the community could help by following that. As far as The bike lane itself, it will not alleviate the pedestrian car incident at the intersection, at the corner. As a matter of fact, bikers have a name for it called a right hook. They're very concerned that no matter what visibility is there, that as they proceed, the car turning right will hook them. That's because the car's driver, doing his best, looks in his mirror. He's thinking of the relative distance. Here comes Randy Biker doing 25, and it's beyond his perception. As he starts to turn, the mirror's not pointed there anymore. He can't see him. And as he continues to turn, you get the right hook. So it's just not safe to put a bike lane in the midst of something like 35th. 35th right now has 13,000 commutes per day. The Future of 35th Avenue Committee, 3 years ago, started a plan that said we're going to upzone at the major corners from 4 floors to 5, but the first one will be tall. It went from IC40 to IC55. The City Council wants to barter 2 more floors for HALA commitments. They're going to put in 40% parking. The rest of it is going to spill over into the neighborhoods. Good luck with that. The cars are still going to be here. Right now we have 3.5% biking in Seattle. The latest study says it will grow at 4.7% per year. If you do the logarithmic, it'll be at 6% in 20 years. It's not going to be at 10% in my lifetime, and it won't be at 20% in your lifetime. The cars are here to stay. The people are coming. 35th is our community's major arterial. For the rest of Seattle, oh, it's minor. Well, over here, it's major. One of the benefits of our current parking situation, we park on both sides of the road 22 hours a day. 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening, we don't. That helps the morning and the afternoon commute. It also flushes out all those who want to just do camping, long-term parking. Some people call it, or you're storing your car on the street. But it gets flushed out every day on 35th. That's a benefit to the community. Back up 3 or 4 streets from 35th, it's just cars parked. There are several streets where you can barely go down the middle. And then the talk is, well, flood out further because we're taking away your parking. And we haven't even talked about, let me 1 minute and I'll stop. The biking community is easy to say that riding 4 blocks away from where they want to go, on 39th instead of 35th, or on 30th instead of 35th, which we want to add, that it's troublesome to go uphill sometimes to get 4 blocks. This is the group that says that I bike over to Redmond.
Let's not pass aspersions.
Meanwhile, by taking away the parking on one side of the street, it means that everybody has to cross the street over and back. And we heard your story about those getting off the bus. These are people, especially if they're mobility impaired, that now have to pedal down to this cross street, pedal across, pedal back. I'm sure it's good for their cardio, but it's not good for the community.
Thank you for being respectful to each other, listening. What I'd like to do now is I'm going to just like to basically call on people. I'm going to do the following to call on people. I'm going to go left, middle, right, all right? You've got a child who's the most adorable person. And so you get to go first. And I'd like to ask people to, if you've got a question, that's great. If you have a question for us, great. Or for the city, great. Or a comment, we're here to learn, or a proposal. But again, the 3 of us may not be able to answer a question.
There's been some concern about the time of the meeting, and I understand, but I want people to understand, we put this together on very short notice, and we tried to do it in proximate time to when we had met with the SAVE group. So that's the reason that we did it today, and this was the quickest public meeting space we get. So we understand that not everybody can be here that wants to be here, but this is what we're doing right now.
Point of order.
We're not.
Well, okay, we allow safe streets 15 minutes to talk, they go 20.
No.
You give us 10.
I was watching, it was 11 and 11.
It was not.
Let's be adults here. That was close. If it
I'm going
wasn't
to say,
exactly
in keeping track, there's 11 minutes for the save side. And remember, as David said, we did this on the fly after we spent a long time on tour and discussions with Save 35th people on Thursday night. So please, you've got your turn.
Hi, my name's Andre Solomon. My family lives car-free in Seattle. We get around everywhere by transit, biking, walking, family of 4. And every day when we're biking, and you need to experience this, but every day we're threatened by cars. Literally threatened. It doesn't matter on main arterials or on residential streets. There's always some driver who doesn't want to move out of the way and come straight for you, assuming you'll move out of the way. Or there's somebody who, gets upset that you're taking 30 seconds to get to the light, and so, they will zoom around you with only, inches to spare. I helped advocate for 39th Ave. I worked with children's. I actually lived on 39th Ave at the time, so we got my neighbors together. 39th Ave is wonderful, but it doesn't have any businesses on it. There is a large hill between 39th and 35th, and also it's not a dedicated bicycle facility. When you're on 39th, you're sharing the road with cars. So it's not like you have a space that's away from everybody else where you feel safe. When I'm biking with my daughter, I want that. That's something where, if you look at the bike lanes on Cohen Place and 15th, for example, it's parking protected. It's pretty wonderful, and you can just relax and bike and not worry about somebody coming behind you at 40 miles an hour and zooming past you. So there's usually there's people that prefer greenways and there's people that prefer bike lanes on arterials. They complement each other. They're not in competition with each other, and they're not replacements with each other. And just to address a point that Liam made about the cost of these things, Roosevelt was a paving project where they added bike lanes. The cost of Roosevelt for the bike lanes was $350,000 per mile. That's an amazing savings, and it's really smart of the city to add bike lanes for a paving project. In addition, they are changing around bus stops. That's not something that SDOT chose, that's something that Metro is choosing, and it's saving everybody money to also rearrange bus stops. So when you see the city combining projects like this, it's actually really cost effective for them to do so. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Middle, right?
Hi, I'm Catherine Gardo, and I do not live in this neighborhood, even though I used to live on 35th Avenue quite a while ago now. But I frequent this neighborhood. I live in Laurelhurst, close to City People's Mercantile. I come to this neighborhood a lot, and that will impact me. I do bike, I do walk. I walk in my neighborhood to City People's Mercantile, Catterman's Pharmacy. I do not walk to this neighborhood. I do not bike to this neighborhood. I like to bike. I would never bike on 35th Avenue, and I'm glad that there are people who are willing to try it. I propose adding a new bike lane, whether it's either this way, connecting all the schools, Wedgwood, Assumption, Bryant, or one block down this way. I think we need to work together and figure out solutions that work for everybody, rather than just one group of people, and that's how I feel this is. This is a proposal that is to serve the bike community. It doesn't propose to serve the people who come to this community by car, or perhaps are disabled, or perhaps are young, or perhaps who don't even want to bike on 35th Avenue. And I think we need to figure out a more global, bigger solution for this area. Thank you.
You asked what you should consider. So number one, thank you very much for listening. I think, I'm going to stand right in the middle of this because I don't think there's a safe and a save. I think everybody wants safe. And I want safe for bikers, I want safe for walkers, I want safe for drivers. I want, when we make these proposals, for people to think about the collateral damage to other things. I live on 34th, across from my good neighbor, Liam. And I spend all my day yelling to people, slow down, because they don't want to be on 34th. They see that the light is red, so they shoot down my street to try at top speed to beat the light. And when I went to that famous community to gather information, and they wanted to do upscaling, you know, go to more floors, and I said, what's the transportation plan? I was told, we're not concerned with that. We're not the transportation. I said, please, don't give me these unintegrated plans. I want a plan that says what happens in the meantime. I'm not gonna bike somewhere. I don't begrudge you if you're gonna bike, but somebody has to create the mitigation plan. Where's the transition plan? This isn't, oh, we're all gonna bike.
And we're all be safe.
I tried to walk to the business I love on 35th and felt like I was gonna get killed. There was no way for me to get across the street to the post office. Speed kills. Texting drivers kills. I feel like somehow this got turned into a biking issue and parking issue. People are going too dang fast on 35th and nobody's watching. And the mitigation plans aren't really there. So when you dream up stuff like this, pay attention to the whole system. And I think we all want safe.
Here. To stand, run out onto the street and yell, slow down. Some of our neighbors think we're nuts. We've got 20 minutes left basically before we have to break up. I'm going to ask someone on this side. Right here.
Oh, okay, good. So, I am an avid cyclist, been here 30 years. And clearly respect the opposition. I'm on the Save City. I feel like the trade-off is not fair. I feel like the Bike Master Plan, great idea. I love what they've done on Dexter, Stoneway, all that stuff. Nice wide streets, plenty of room for everybody. Not the case here. And the things that we've uncovered, somebody very close to me has uncovered the facts from the SDOT recommending to Rob Johnson to put the bike lanes on 36th, I believe it was. Great idea. I think that whoever spoke said there's a way to come to terms, to come to an agreement, to redesign what's proposed so that everybody is happy and the parking remains where it's to be. This whole thing about how people feel about their safety on 35th. I've been riding 35th for 15 years. I'm on the news saying it. Never had a problem. I've had more bike accidents on the bike trail, which is the truth. So, you know, from my perspective as a cyclist, and I love Seattle because it's become bike friendly, is I don't have any problem with 35th. If I'm a cyclist and I'm worried about the hill, get a triple ring, no problem. You go right up the hill on a triple ring. I feel like there's a way to create bike lanes in other outer lying areas and feed them into the side streets. And if you're that scared, bike on the sidewalk. The community reach out that we were talking about the other day. The initial response from the Wedgwood Community Council was against the bike lanes on 35th. And of course the whole personnel's changed, so that's changed, I understand. The neighborhood poll from SDOT
was 68% against bike lanes on 35th. It's actually grown to 88% now. That just came out today. SDOT did recommend, as I said before, to not put them on 35th. And my proposal would probably not be accepted for a design on 35th, but I'm willing to share that if you want to hear it. You know, again, it's just not wide enough. It just doesn't make any sense, and the trade-off is not worth it.
I'm a resident of View Ridge and also on the Northeast District Council. And I am frankly caught in the middle. I've heard both sides, and I've been in particular very upset with the animosity that this whole thing has caused. Neighbor against neighbor, as we heard. We need to come together rather than fight each other. I don't know really whether all sides, as emotions have gone higher and higher, whether we're really listening to each other totally and understanding exactly where each of us is. But my suggestion would be that we need to go back to the drawing board in respect to the city. And I know these are hardworking folks in the mayor's office and the Department of Transportation, absolutely. We need some help. We need a mediator to sit down with the various sides and to help these sides and the city officials come together on solutions that are going to work. No, everybody's preference isn't going to be possible to implement every last preference. But I think if we are able to come together in that fashion, we'll have a much better solution that will serve more broadly the needs of the community. Thank you.
Office, do we have a chance to possibly have someone do some mediation?
I'm not sure I'd have to take that back.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Philip. Now, I'm actually a mediator. All right.
You don't give us your card when we go back to work.
So I used to work for the state for PERC as a mediator and hearing examiner, and from that professional perspective, I appreciate the way that Mr. Pollet, you and your colleagues have been facilitating this. One of the things, I was going to talk about this, but this is a good sort of lead in here. Sure. So a couple of things I learned in mediation is, one is I dealt with parties that were, they're employer and employee, so they had differences, but they also had sometimes very strong differences. This is throughout the state, so in places where often the differences were ideologically charged, even more so than here. But they also had a relationship. They had a continuing relationship. They're going to have to see each other the next week, work together for the next year, the next few years. And I think that's very much like what we have here is, whatever your differences are, your neighbors, and you're going to have to work out those differences here. In fact, you'd have to show that you can have some sort of alternative with even more buy-in before anybody at any governmental level would sort of take notice of what that back to the drawing board scenario looks like. The other thing is that, and this is more from a negotiator standpoint, people don't, once something has been worked out, apparently this process took, 5-6 years, so there have already been decisions made, there have been compromises, people have conceded this and that, and so it's not realistic to go back to the drawing board for a number of reasons. One, from the mediation standpoint, one is that people are not, it's not in anyone's interest to negotiate against themselves. They've already felt that they've conceded this and gotten to this point, what, and then they're asked to concede more, where does that end? Where does that line drawn? Is it up to the opposition to draw that line? And why would anybody concede that sort of authority? Personally, I'm a resident here. I live off of 25th and 70th. It's a few blocks further from here than some of you, but the neighborhood, the QFC is the closest one to me. The PCC is the closest one to me. I tend to drive to shopping and such. My fiance, she tends to bike, and that means she does bike on 35th. That also means that she doesn't bike on 39th. I actually didn't know there was a bike lane there. I'm on 25th. Why would I go there? Why would that probably applies to everybody between 25th and 35th. That 100 blocks of people who would be going to the market or to Top Pot or the bakery and so forth. So that's a whole half of your neighborhood that is not served by the lane that you correctly point out is a bike lane. The other thing, and so that's addressed, I just wanted to address sort of objectively why that's not the practical solution. The other thing I've heard, and this also comes from mediation, is what are our shared interests? And I believe it's probably overwhelming, if not unanimous, that we all want safer roads. I think all sides have talked about speeding vehicles and inattentive vehicles. And the presence of bikes, pedestrians, more pedestrians, makes roads safer for all. And you have countries, I'm not going to get into the whole helmet thing, but you have countries where they don't even wear helmets on bikes and it's safer. Just because there's so many bikes on the road, that makes drivers aware of other people. And it's that sort of unawareness, inattentiveness that causes these accidents. I mean, I just read when I was cramming to come here, there are 200 injuries since 2004. I'm sure many of them were children, just on the street. That just sounds like way too many for a largely residential street. So I think if we want to have a safer road for both drivers and non-drivers, then we need to learn how to share the road, because sharing the road makes it safer. And so I'll just end with that.
Rogers Elementary.
Thanks. The one thing that nobody has really touched on yet, and this is not necessarily bike lane, this is not necessarily State 35th, is I ride my bike on 35th from 100th to the University of Washington every day. I also take the bus when it's raining because I don't like getting wet and having a stripe on my back. But the issue is, when you get, and I also happen to ride not during commuting hours. That's a whole separate issue with people passing on the left, which that's where the speed comes from. Somebody stops to turn, you're going around the left, I don't cross the street. I won't cross the street at an unmarked intersection when people stop. I wave them through because too many times somebody passes on the left and I'm going to go back. I mean, it's there, it's happening. The other issue is routinely cars in my lane, which is fine, there's plenty of room when there's no car parked there. If there is a car parked there, and I'm in the lane also, the car that wants to go around me must cross the center line to make it down, to make it around me. This is also true of buses. The bus pulls into the bus stop, especially down from 65th to 55th, it's really narrow. If there are two cars parked on either side and the bus is coming, cars in oncoming traffic have to stop and wait for the bus to clear the intersection. There's just not space for 4 lanes. There's just not space for 4 cars. That's all I have to say.
Can I ask a question? As you ride from 100th all the way down?
Yeah.
And I'm not aware, is there, that's 2 lanes all the way down there. Are you talking about on 35th by Meadowbrook and on the back up?
I ride from 100, so it's just at the, almost the top of the hill there. And there's a bike lane coming up the hill.
I'm curious why, maybe somebody knows this, but why is the city not putting lanes in on that where it's wide?
I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. Like it's barely wide enough for 2 lanes, but during rush hour, when from 7 to 9 or whatever it is in the morning, people treat it as a two-lane road.
Yeah, I've ridden on that as well.
Yeah, and as somebody who's just trying to get to my job or ride the bus, like it's just dangerous.
One thing that I'm bearing in mind, let me just say from this, you just remind me, is, there were a number of proposals in the Visioning 35th report, which are not part of this project that we might want to look at, which are important. So something to bear in mind. And there are a lot of really good proposals for slowing traffic, building pedestrian-friendly environments that aren't part of this proposal. We've been sitting, waiting.
Hi. I'll face this way. My name's Glenn Bowman, and I don't live in Wedgwood. I live just over in the Ravenna neighborhood, but I come to the businesses along here quite a bit. I'm a parent of two, 12-year-old daughter and 15-year-old son, who both bike with me, and now my son is old enough that he's out there sometimes by himself or with others riding his bike. And I agree. I think we all want safety. There's some of the things I heard were like 31 mile per hour, 85th percentile speed. That's, the issue for safety is more the top end speeding, right? I mean, how many cars per day are going more than 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, right? Those are the real dangers. And bike lanes, you like them or not, they help with speeding. I mean, all of these projects that Seattle has done, where they've added protected bike lanes, have eliminated or in a couple of cases, drastically reduced top end speeding. I mean, and that's the danger for people riding bikes, but even more so for people crossing the street. The library, things like that. And I don't know. I mean, I'm drained and sad. I just want myself and my kids to be able to get here safe when I go to the post office.
What about speed bumps? Speed bumps slow down.
So you're suggesting speed bumps on 35th?
Is his mom time? And
just this gentleman tweeted about our rally a few weeks ago. Who do I talk to about these rich old white people? They're littering the sidewalk like needles and feces. That was her tweet.
I could put a face on that. Only the tech bros ride bikes, right? No single moms.
tweet back right now. You have 30 more seconds.
Okay. I mean, I think sharing is the right thing, right? And sharing is not saying, okay, anyone who's on a bike, go over to 39th or over, to 30th. There's more than 40 feet of right-of-way for most of this street, and all of it's for cars right now.
Oh.
Thank you.
Can we hear from the state?
Yeah. How about a single red person?
I'm not a biker over there. I'm just a dad.
Hold on a second. Representative Pollet is doing the best he can on this, so please, everybody just calm down. Go ahead, Jerry.
And in terms of whether or not I've called on a red person or a green person, I have no idea which of you are wearing which color. So I can see blue. And blue has the floor right now.
Here, how many people in there know how wide a Metro bus is? Bumper to bumper, from bumper, side to side. 8 feet, 6 inches. You add another 12 inches on each side for the mirrors. And I know this because the kind Metro bus driver actually let me measure and helped me. It actually came in at 9.6 feet wide. My truck is 8 foot wide. My pickup truck is almost 8 foot wide with the mirrors. You put me on a 7 foot wide parking strip, you're now putting me into the lane of traffic. You look down Roosevelt, and you can see all the cars that are parked legally and how many of them are actually sticking in the lane of traffic? So, and they're not even following the guidelines set for design level standards for two-way roads, which says the minimum is 12 feet. The only time you can go to 10 feet is if you have a shoulder. The city of Seattle's own thing says the same thing. Through traffic lane, 11 feet. Parking lane on bus route, 10 feet. So judged by that, and like the other day, I was noticing the fire department was coming up, they come up 55th, when they put the fire station from 33rd down to 40th, they had to widen because they couldn't make the right turn because of the size of their vehicle. And as people say frequently, if there's a school bus or another bus coming opposing traffic, it doesn't happen. You're actually putting more people at risk, and you're going to see more vehicle accidents go up by doing this. There's not enough room.
This is going to be our last speaker.
Okay, and I'll keep it quick. My name's Deborah Huffman. I live over on... sorry. My name's Deborah Huffman. I live over on 82nd Street, and as a nurse, my main concern is public safety. 35th is the main north-south arterial. There's a fire station at 95th. There's another fire station down by Market. I don't think they come up. Is it 55th? But the main route, north-south, or at least south, for our fire station 40 is 35th. If you've got a situation where you've got these bike lanes, narrow streets, a bus stops, they're backed up, and people can't pull over, what's going to happen? Ambulance. Or any kind of emergency responder. And I know that delay can be very bad. That to me is a public safety issue. So that's all.
I want to thank you all for a very engaging discussion. Thank you, Representative Pollet, for leading us in this discussion. I know the three of us will talk and see what we can do to try to get all sides together. Can't promise the world, but this is again, as Senator Frockt alluded to earlier. This is obviously a city issue, but we've heard from a lot of you, and so we wanted to make sure that we were engaged and heard from all the voices, and we will do our best to see what we can do, working with Mayor's office and Seattle Department of Transportation, and just see what further dialogue that we can bring to get all sides.
I want to thank people for coming, and even though we have to close by 5, I'm happy I'll hang around outside if people want to just give me their 2 cents. So for as long as people want to, I don't have anything else going on right this evening. This is a complicated issue. There are times when we have state policy that's implicated in this. For example, a few years ago, Representative Pollet and I supported a bill to ensure that local governments had the authority to reduce speeds on, I can't remember if it was non-arterial or arterial streets, but it was more flexibility for local governments because, believe it or not, there was some restrictions in state law. So I think we get that, we understand that's something that everybody can agree with. And I know, I've also supported in the past complete streets type of legislation. Every situation is a little different. This is obviously a complicated thing, and it's a large issue in the city. So we wanted to create a forum because a lot of people have been reaching out to us. And again, I appreciate everyone's being civil. I think we should all be civil to each other. I think we should be civil online to each other and not, act like President Trump. For God's sakes, our friends to the north. Some of you may be Canadian, I don't know. So we should, I think, I realize there's a Canadian, there you go. I thought you were American me off. I was calling for some So appreciate hearing from everybody. And again, this is a local issue. Maybe we can be constructive and help. Maybe we can't. Maybe it's ultimately going to be a city issue. But I appreciate everybody coming. And again, I'll stick around if you have more you want to say.
Our emails are our first name dot last name at leg.wa.gov. So Javier.Valdez at leg.wa.gov. David.Frockt at leg.wa.gov. jerry.pollet@lg.bar.gov. I think we'll get together and we'll talk about what we can do to be helpful. One of the most interesting aspects of this is, I went to an open house about the plan October or November 2016, and I actually have taught the class recently at Bevan School on open government, and my mantra is for a decision to go forward, you need good public involvement and listening, and not just a poster session. And that's one thing I take away from this is, it's not just this plan, but others with SDOT, that you need to move from having poster sessions where no one knows if the answer they got is the answer that the next person got. And you need to actually listen and give people a sense that they were heard for a decision to actually be able to move forward, even if it's the same exact decision. So we'll see what we can do, and thank you very much. Javier has a graduation ceremony to get to, but Senator Frockt and I are able to stand out and talk to you if you're not going to yell at us. We're elected officials, you can yell at us too, I'm just joking. Whatever you want to do, okay? So,
thank you for the meeting.
There's another group that needs this room in 5 minutes, not even they can configure the room before then, so